We are still committed to putting the spotlight on the lives and achievements of some of the most influential people across the country to inspire and educate as well as motivate our cherished listeners. Okay, on this week's episode, and of course today, we spend quality time with a quintessential gentleman of Inky fraternity who has spent the most part of his life in various roles as gatekeeper for ethical journalism. Okay, now founder of the African University College of Communications AUCC and currently Pan-African Heritage World Museum. He just celebrated his 77th birthday, and I tell you what, he doesn't look it. He doesn't look it. A proud son of Aguna Diakwa in the central region of Ghana. He was educated in various primary schools in the central region, eastern regions, until his schoolmaster father was transferred to Winneba in the late 50s, from where he qualified to attend at Disador College back in Cape Coast. Now, he pursued his first degree in English, graduate diploma at the School of Communications, and MPhil studies at the Institute of African Studies, all at the University of Ghana. Now, his professional interest in communication studies led him to the Institute of Social Studies at The Hague, at the University of Nairobi, Kenya, and Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, all on fellowship from the United Nations. Now, he has practiced public relations at the Information Service Department, SNIT, GIHOC, edited the Daily Graphic, being a broadcaster on GBC Radio and TV, being director for the Ghana Institute of Journalism, and a member of Parliament and Minister of State in the Republic of Ghana. Now, since the year 2000, when he retired from public service, he has done PR communication consultancy work under his own company, Yanka and Associates, and also founded and led the African University College of Communications until his second retirement in 2017. He's the creator of Inspector Bediako, the first local detective TV series on GTV in the early 90s. Currently founder and executive director of the Pan-African Heritage World, with 10 books behind him and another one in the pipeline, I'm told. It is not clear when he will announce his third retirement. He's a world traveler and full-time student of world communication. But for now, we have him to share with us, wealth and professional information on his life journey. We're quite privileged to have him here this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're locked in now, it is time for Why Leaderboard series. Back to business, like I always say. But first and foremost, a big thank you to our sponsors, Cowbank for Together, and of course, MTN Ghana everywhere you go. Chocomo by Casa Precon. A big thank you to all of them for making it possible for us to sit here with you every single Wednesday to inspire your life, okay? Join me as we welcome our guest for this morning, the one and only Honorable Kojo Yanka, founder and president, African University College of Communications, to the Why Leaderboard series. Welcome and good morning, sir. Good to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Must feel good to sit and listen to all these things we read about you.
No,
not really.
I don't really feel good. I mean, it's been said
so many times, right?
So many times. It looks like I'm looking for a new job.
If you're to pick a new job, what would it be? Any clues? Broadcasting. Back to broadcasting.
Yes.
I think I wouldn't be wrong if I say that's your first love.
No, that's true, because you share information. You also get people to bring out the best in them, and then you educate. Most important. You educate people who need a lot of education. So
you'd come back to broadcasting. So from what angle would you want to be the behind the scenes person, or you would probably host a show?
I want to host.
You want to host a show? Okay, I think that can happen. It is possible. I'd be very glad to see you again. Now, before we get to the main reason why we're here, today is Kwame Nkrumah's Memorial Day. I've had guests in the past who have had the opportunity of interacting with him in the past. Humbly, I want to ask, did you ever have any encounter with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in the past? Do you have any fond memories of him?
No, I would say that a distant relationship. I was a member of the Young Pioneer Movement, and therefore we learned about him, studied about him, and when we had the occasion to meet him or see him drive past, it was in a distance. But he was really the charming personality that any youth would want to call a role model. Because he was so inspirational.
What specific traits about him inspired you?
Kwame Nkrumah was a selfless person. He had a wealth of knowledge. You see, which is very important. He had traveled far and wide. He had experienced America. He'd experienced racism. He'd met with common people in Harlem. He had been doing some basic chores to earn money in America. He had gone to school through the hard way. But more important, he had accumulated a wealth of knowledge.
That's true.
You see, as a leader, he needed that to prepare himself adequately. He met great minds in America. He met great minds in the UK when he moved from America to the United Kingdom or England. And he learned at the feet of people who also had wide expanse of knowledge. So he prepared himself adequately. So hearing him was joy. I mean, hearing him speak, seeing him, even on radio, on television, on a platform, he was amazing. I mean, and was a charming person.
Yeah.
And he's not the person that, I mean, it showed clearly that wanted anything for himself.
That's true.
Selfless leadership. And he was so transparent. You could see that this is a man who had a passion for the independence of Ghana, and particularly for the youth.
Yeah.
He wanted a new breed of young people. And that is the kind of leader that I saw and got inspired by.
All right. Thank you so much for that. So, guys, you heard it. Prof. Honorable Yanka's view on our late, President Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Happy birthday to him once again, to his family, his followers. We celebrate him throughout the day. In the course of the show, other things may come up related to the late professor, the late Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I don't know why the word professor keeps coming back to my mouth this morning. Prof, now tell us about what it meant to grow up in Agona Diakwa in the central region. I say this because it's the bastion of education and, in Ghana. Some of us read about how formal education began around that time. Were you privileged to be in that era? How were things like? How different were things from now?
Yeah, I mean, Diakwa was the place where the first national school was founded, by the chief at the time. And it was meant to bring together all the youth in the area. And those days, and I think also today, a lot of settlers, or migrants moved from the coastal to that part of the country. And therefore, we had a lot of people from Elmina, from Cape Coast, from Anomabo, from Solpon, who intermarried.
Yeah.
And because of the education that was there, some were teachers, some were selling for these European GB Olivant, USC. There were all those shops were around, and so they brought some life into the area. And we learned that in 1928 they were the first community to have electricity in the central region. Powered by generators. So it had quite some history that we're proud of it. Because our grandfather was the chief, we also felt close to the royalty, and we were happy about it. But it didn't go into our heads. We went to school, not exactly in Diakwa itself, because our father was a schoolmaster. He kept traveling in various parts of the region, central and eastern regions. And as you said, we ended up at Winneba, where I had to do my common entrance and then move on to Cape Coast to Adisado.
Around that time, I mean, the basic education you mentioned was quite prestigious from all you're saying. Who had that access to education then? It was quite an unusual thing, I should say. If I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected. Was it merit based on your academic performance or your parents' ability to pay, or it was accessible to everyone?
That period, I wish we had that period again, purely on merit. I mean, I went to my first call for an interview was by the headmaster himself.
You had to do an interview?
Yeah.
Nice.
The headmaster went, and he did not stay in Cape Coast to do the interview. He went round.
Wow.
So our center was Winneba. So all the students in the Winneba area who passed the common entrance had to go for an interview. And TJ Drury, a white guy, went round with one of his assistants, and we lined up for the interview. And then within a week or so, we got results, and purely on merit.
Not who you know.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Wow.
So, and secondary school was government assisted.
Okay.
But it did not mean that I didn't pay anything. We had to pay the tuition fee. I think it was £32, and my father struggled with it because he was a school teacher. I can't remember how much he was receiving. But, if you know my family, we were 4 brothers. We all went to secondary school following one another.
Yeah.
So if a schoolmaster had to dip his hands into his pocket to pay school fees for 4 people, and then, of course, we had a sister too later. It was quite... But the point is that we remember him because he sacrificed. He knew the value of education. So I remember him telling us one day that for 10 years he had never bought a new shirt.
Wow.
Those were the days. So the point I'm making is that the value you put in education also dictates how well you can look after your children. If you think of yourself first, you probably will not educate your children.
You won't give them the best of education.
You will give them the best because you want to buy
buy the latest car.
Reward yourself. This and that. So the little money that you have to pay for, you say it's too much, But no, our father didn't do that. He really, really, really sacrificed, and we remember him for it because that's the selflessness you're talking about.
You set yourself aside.
Right. And again, you are planting for the future.
That's true.
There is no investment greater than educating your children. If you give them education to a certain level and you don't even leave them any property, it's a great thing to do.
Sustainable enough.
So that's where I love talking to parents. Keep an eye on the children. Sacrifice for your youth. Sacrifice for your children. They'll come back, and buy you new shirts.
Dozens of them.
Dozens of them. So those were the days. And because we my brother, because he has a picture in which 3 of us were going to church, and I was the only one wearing canvas shoes, although wearing suits, right? White suits.
Wow.
But they were not wearing any sandals because our father could only afford to buy a pair of canvas for me alone.
And it was your turn.
It was my turn.
Wow, beautiful memories.
So it's when you look back, they teach you a lot of lessons, and they're the same today. There are people in very, very high positions. They don't care what level of education their children attain, and so you get vagabonds and all kinds of things. It's a shame.
Wow. I'm really just here trying to paint the picture, with all the things you've mentioned. Still on that, I mean, just around the time you were still a kid, What were the things that excited you? Things that you looked forward to day in, day out? Aside, I mean, you mentioned education. Aside that, what were some of the things you had interest in, and how did these things impact you growing into an adult?
Right. You know, I grew up around the time where if you were a little creative, you were different. So nature was so close to us. Behind your house, not these days when we've cleared everything from our houses.
The tree.
So if your mother brought some leaves from the back of the house to put into your soup, you were curious to find out, well, what have you put into my soup? And she'll explain that it's for your health.
Yeah.
Now, so outside of her, you would have that curiosity. What did she put in her soup? You know, and she wants a flavor, or it is something herbal, and so you on your own.
Yeah.
If you're curious, you wanted to really find out, and if you asked, you got answers.
Yeah.
So they gave you fresh information, some of which you were not even studying in school, and even if it helped you in school, we had a class called Nature Study.
Okay.
So you learned about nature, trees, flowers, herbal plants. You learned all these, and you lived with them.
Yeah. They were part of your life.
They're part of your life. So it wasn't something that you were dreaming. Today, if you teach children about cocoa leaves,
half of them haven't even seen.
They have not seen a cocoa tree.
That's very true.
But behind our house, you could easily grow a cocoa tree. Our land was fertile. See, you think of those days and you wonder what suddenly happened.
Yeah.
Of course, we say we want to urbanize, so we want to cut off trees and put cement in our houses and pavements. We cut everything and we lose touch with nature. But in our time, we're living with nature and we're also learning nature studies in school. We lost it. Of course, there was also sports, competitions. Our father liked soccer, so and I remember even those days his favorite team was Accra Hatterbock. I didn't know what it was all about, but
do you understand now? I mean, knowing how the team is good now.
Well, I won't go there.
You won't go there, right? We'll keep it safe. Wow.
But you know, that's the time we only had one radio station. The only tube you could listen to was Radio Ghana. So the box was in front of the house, and you know, our father bought, you know, a wireless set. We call it a wireless set.
Yes.
And we had those batteries that powered the wireless, and woe unto you if you touched the radio while he was not in the house. So anytime you wanted to open the radio, you had to wait
for him to
come and you seek permission. You know, and he will give you the permission based on what he wanted. I mean, if he thought that you should be learning, he will not open the radio. And I remember when he also bought television sets.
That must have been a double dose of a treat from the radio.
Now, all the people in the neighborhood had to come to our house every Sunday to watch soccer. You know, the Hearts of Folk things and that. You know, playing soccer on TV. Again, you never touch you dare not touch the TV set. Why are you switching it on for? I mean, it's not yours. It's, you know, your father who decided which channels you should watch, that kind of thing. You know, and you look back and it's all fun, but
interesting days.
It happened.
Yeah,
it happened. You know,
Honorable. what were your? I mean, you've told us the things that excited you, things you really cherished. But around that time, did you have any career aspirations? At that point, did you ever think of what you'd want your life to turn into, career-wise?
I think that it started showing up when I went to secondary school. Because I saw that I was doing a lot of writing.
Okay.
We had a newsletter that was pasted on the board. So I joined I started writing some articles. I saw that the articles were used on the board. Then I was made editor, of the, at Southern Newsletter. And I said, wow. So it inspired me more, encouraged me more to do more writing. So my literary, thing really started from that time. And because of Young Pioneers, I must say, Young Pioneer was a great initiative by Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. See, we had extracurricular activities from the classroom. Even some of this, our lecturers or tutors, some of whom were white, did not like Kwame Nkrumah. And they did not like even the Young Pioneer movement because, see the wisdom, he said, here is a country or a continent that has suffered colonialism for how many years?
So many years.
So the youth must be primed. They must be retaught.
Yeah.
Because if he didn't create a new core of youth, we'll be thinking the same old colonial way.
Yes.
And that's why the Young Pioneer movement. And so he brought that as extracurricular, and we learned so much. We had this code of ethics. I don't know whether you've come across it, but we had the Nkrumah Code of Ethics that we all aspired to. I don't know whether you ever came across
I think I've heard about it. I have friends who did history at KNUST. I think one mentioned that. I'm trying to see if I can get in touch with him to the Kwame Nkrumah Code of Ethics.
Yes.
You had it? You have it?
I have it. I have the Code of Ethics, for the Young Pioneers. Love of country, discipline and obedience, honesty and morality, punctuality, protection of state property, reliability and secrecy, comradeship and forbearance, love of work, field crafts, unaffectedness, self-control, and striving to faultlessness. I mean, these were recited. So
it was a part of you.
It was became part of you. People do not understand why some of us from that period took those values seriously, because it helped us to shape our lives. See, in any growth formation, you have where you were born, there are values in that society. So your town, your village, your family values. Then you move on to the next stage of school education. School education should give you new values.
Yeah.
They add on to what you already have.
Our friend School Nyansa.
School Nyansa. As opposed to a fear Nyansa.
Yes.
So we added on the School Nyansa, and these values of Young Pioneers were so great, and I always wish that we kept them, because it's just like you grow up, you say you grow up in a church or Christian family, recite Our Father, the Lord's Prayer,
right on your lips.
Right. So if you've been able to recite Our Father, why don't you recite this code? So this code becomes part of you, and it helps you to
it resonates in everything you do.
In everything you do, you are cautious. Love of state, state property. I mean, to protection of state property.
So you don't go about vandalizing
things. It becomes something that you want to cherish all the time, and love of country. So you love your country, and if you were to represent your country, you did it with a lot of pride. These days, people want to be paid before they love their country.
That's true.
So these are important values that we inculcated, into our lives. So we grew up with them, and it helped to shape our life, even in secondary school.
Yeah.
Of course, every secondary school also has some values.
Yeah.
For example, in Atsala, they say that you have to work hard and continue with where people have labored, and so you share their glory. So you have to work hard and leave something behind. So you keep building up. That's what builds a personality. It's a combination of the kind of values that you have imbibed throughout your life, from Ifie, through school, through life, through work. But the most important thing is that they should be locally based. Because if you choose values that are alien to your own environment, you find yourself alienated.
Yes.
And that's why a lot of us, when you go to university, you come home, what your mother was doing years ago now, you say, and there are some youth who will even start looking that they won't get associated with
certain things
in the community, because Yako school, so you speak all the English and you want to show off, so there are a lot of things that we do in our youthful period, and we do not know that it affects the way we grow up into the future. But if I'm saying that if you stay close to your values, your heritage, you do better for yourself.
That's beautiful. And thank you so much for bringing back our attention to the code of ethics. I believe these things should be an ample part of our lives as Ghanaians now. I mean, you look through the key pillars, and a lot of us have departed from these things. It's no longer valuable out here. Truthfulness is downplayed now. People say the truth is what you make it. People call good things the right things, things that are beneficial to them alone. And so it's really breeding a lot of social vices and issues we could have avoided in the past. I believe if we're going to move forward as a country, and this is just to cut what we're saying and get into something else, we need to pay attention to these things. If we're celebrating Dr. Kwame Nkrumah today, these are the things we should drum into the ears of the people.
True.
Once we start getting back to this, integrity will be our language again. We've departed.
Protection of state property. I mean, amazing.
Because if you look at it critically, you are paying for it yourself.
Yeah.
If you go to vandalize the properties at the harbor, it's coming back to you.
True.
Prices will go up.
True.
If you protect it, we don't have to pay for it. That's just by the way, anyways. Now, Honorable, I'm told you thought for a while before university.
Yes.
What sort of perspective did that early working experience open your eyes to, and how did that impact your life as a student? And would that be your first opportunity at work, or you had some form of work experience before this?
No, we didn't have national service then.
Okay.
So when I finished my first degree, what our headmaster, Mr. Williams Poby, did was to come back to look at students, past students who are graduated, to come and teach.
Okay.
This was in the early 60s. Oh, wait a minute, late 60s.
Late 60s, okay.
So he asked me to come and teach English And I also taught some French.
Okay. You learned French then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I took French to advanced level. And so I spoke French very well.
Impeccable French. Some of us still struggle with it. Our teachers didn't help us.
And you know why it was good? Because all our neighboring countries, you see, we've lost so much. You see, Kwame Nkrumah wanted all students to know French. Our neighboring countries, if you go to Dakar now, and this is a departure from the question you asked, not just Dakar, some of the French-speaking countries around us. If you know English, you stand a chance of getting a bigger position, particularly in government. So we studied French, and the headmaster invited me to come back to teach, and so I had to come back. It's, as I'm saying, it wasn't national service.
It wasn't.
But it was even an honor for the headmaster to come and say, I want you to come back to teach. There were other opportunities, but I said, why not? So I went to teach for 2 years. And because I had also done a lot in African studies and African affairs, I remember forming an organization in Addis Ababa called the African Forum.
Okay.
And my students at the time still remember the African, taught another subject, current affairs.
Okay.
It was purely on African unity and African studies, because those were the years when new African countries were getting liberated. And some of these you will not learn in the classroom.
At all.
So I was teaching them, and then I also formed the group. So some of my students say they gave me a nickname, Amilcar Cabral, because when they assassinated, that president of Mozambique, the leader of the liberation movement died, I wrote a poem, and I called it Amilcar Cabral. And the students apparently took it up, and they told me much later that behind my back they were calling me Amilcar Cabral.
They carved the nickname out of that for you.
Yeah, but the interest was sharing information, that they otherwise did not know. World affairs, was something that was limited to BBC. BBC, if you didn't listen to, and it was a privilege. I mean, how do you even get to hear BBC? Although it had a shortwave band, depends on the kind of wireless or
you're using.
So, but teaching was a great thing for me, and I loved it. The students also loved it.
Now, after school, after uni, your days in uni, you just chalked that a few moments ago that you passionately love teaching, until you went back to the classroom to teach again. Then after that, you were appointed editor for the Daily Graphic by the PNDC after working with various government institutions. Just take us through briefly how you moved from uni to all these companies. Teaching. If you really loved teaching, what brought about your decision to try all these other companies and eventually land in a position at the Daily Graphic?
Yeah, don't forget, I also said that I liked writing.
Writing, yes. That was your other love.
When I left teaching, there were two options open to me.
Okay.
That to join the Ministry of Information, because they were also, they were also employing, recruiting graduates.
Yeah.
Either there or foreign affairs, because my English and French, I could have joined foreign affairs. Then I said no, I want to join information because I liked writing and communication. So I went to information services, went to the publications and research departments, and again it helped me to do a lot of writing. In fact, I took initiative to do a lot of feature articles for what we call the Ghana, handbook. It was kind of a magazine that we gave to all the embassies out, Ghana embassies. So it was mature articles, and I took a lot of initiative at that time. My boss, I would say, it was surprised at the way I decided that, listen, for the next edition, I'm going to the Volta region to go and do a whole interview on Ifremamo, for example. And he says, oh, but we don't have the money to. I said, okay, you know what, I'll go myself. I had a little VW.
Wow.
And I wouldn't get fuel. They say, if you are doing that initiative, then you better go. And when you come back, you get a refund. Okay, so I put petrol in my little Beetle and drive all the way
to Volta region.
To Volta region. We had our office in Ho. I went, asked for a photographer, and he followed me to Pretoria to look for this man's house, and they book appointment for me, and I did a full feature article on Fremamo for the magazine. Then I come back, they publish it, it was on the front page. Then I say, I want to do a story on the history of education in Ghana.
You kept going.
I kept going. I took those. My boss was like, and people were just sitting. Again, it tells you something. That when you get into a job place, don't only look for the job description. Think of something extra.
Yeah.
So I took another day to Cape Coast to a research on education. Went to the castles, went to Philip Kweku School and all that. Did a whole lot of research on the history of education. Again, front page story.
And how old were you around this time?
Must have been in my 20s, early 20s, and my passion was getting something written, and then I moved on to Kumasi, did a story on the Golden Stool, again, front cover. So, when I got the opportunity to go back to graduate school at the University of Ghana, it was easy because information services, if you're in the civil service, it was difficult for you to get, study leave. But because of what I had done,
you had already paid the dues.
It's the directors are like, oh, this is unique. If you got admission, we have to give you study leave. Otherwise, you have to stay for 4 or 5 years. But I got it after 2 years.
Because you had gone an extra mile.
I had gone the extra mile. So I was given the study leave to go to the University of Ghana. Before I could even finish, I had offers.
Wow.
And that was the time SNIT had just been formed, Social Security and National Insurance Trust. And it was the most prestigious organization at the time. To work in SNIT, oh mine. SNIT was the place where in the morning, even waiting for your bus, and they use these state transport buses to pick them up. It was something else. So, the Director General invited me for an interview, even when I was in school. So when I finished, so the question is, do I go back to information?
So that's where you left. They gave you a steady leave.
They gave me a steady leave. So my director called Dr. Kofi Frimpong, said, you know what? We want you as SNIT. So what we will do is we'll go to the Minister of Information and talk, negotiate.
Wow.
Negotiate with the minister and argue that SNIT is also a public service. I said, well, you go and try. If it works,
I will go.
Yeah, I'll go. So he went and saw the minister, Brigadier Kote or some. Yeah, he was then the minister. He came back and said, yeah, I got it. That it's also public service. So they did a transfer and I moved to SNIT straight away.
Wow.
And I was made, public, they call, inside the PRO, they call them public affairs.
Public affairs, yeah.
Public affairs officer straight away with a little, what do I call it, a little car? They had some cars, forgotten what type of, they had some vehicles for managers, so I got a car.
You got a managerial position?
Yeah, I got a managerial position straight away, and I had other seniors who were, I call them principal, public affairs officer, and again, they got amazed by the way, I was producing. Yeah, I was in charge of publication, research and everything, and we're producing these letters. I brought new ideas and all that. So I moved through SNIT, and at that same time, 2 years later, Ghana Industrial Holding Corporation was looking for me. They hunted. Gehawk was looking for. Yeah, we had 30 subsidiaries or more, and so again they were hunting, and they had hunted me. And
did they have to go negotiate with SNIT?
No.
Okay.
Rather, how to run away was the problem. So Dr. Kofi Frimpong told me, listen, if you are leaving, get me somebody
that can replace you. And do exactly what you do. Or better. Wow.
It was not easy. I had a mate from the School of Communication Studies called J.E. Alotepapo. May he rest in peace. He passed 2 years ago. Why him? Because we were doing part-time program at GBC together. We were presenting a program, producing, hosting. We create African Scene was a new program for GBC.
Was it in any way related to Dr. Mike Egan?
No, Mike Egan was on GBC too.
Okay,
he was the morning show host.
Yes.
Yeah, and GBC 3 was actually external service of GBC.
Okay,
and we were producing the show, African Scene.
Okay,
we write the scripts. We come and do our own presentation. Only the technical people were assisting us. And so African Scene was our program. That really was an introduction for me to broadcasting. Because although it was part-time, I loved it.
You loved it because you had passion for it.
I had passion for it. So we produced it for a number of years. But so at that time, I would say my name was out there in the, because of broadcasting. And GBC was fighting over whether I should be on radio or move to television. The producers were, come and host this so there had to be a negotiation, host Talking Point, and at the same time do radio, and later external service that came to do Periscope on radio, and then I moved on to face, and then Talking Point. Anyway, so Gehawk
also came
in and hunted for me, and it was a bigger offer because Gehawk too was big industry, 32 or so subsidiaries. And so going to have the opportunity to travel around the country, explore more. So I took on Gehawk from SNIT.
Wow.
And those days, again, they'll give you a car, give you accommodation. And a young man, I was not even married. I was not even married, but I was just careering all the way. And then and I was writing at the same time as a columnist for the Daily Graphic. So when in 1981 or 31st December coup came, January 28, 1982, I was invited to become editor of the Graphic. So now I had traversed radio,
television to writing and editing. Wow.
Back to Graphic as the editor. But even as editor, I didn't stop hosting program on GBC.
And you still had the Gehawk job?
No, I left.
You left Gehawk and then focused on Daily Graphic. Okay.
As the editor. And then, as I'm saying, I was still hosting. What's happened with GBC is that then I was hosting important interviews.
Okay.
You know? So when they got VIPs in the country, I was invited to go and do the special interviews and that kind of thing. And I stopped talking points and the special interviews and carried on in the Graphic till for 2.5 years. Then I was invited to become director of the Ghana Institute of Journalism.
Wow.
And so with all the experience, of course, I knew the full breadth of the media, so I had to go and head GIJ.
You had written, you had done interviews in the past. I mean, when you chalked your first job opportunity, you drove all the way to the Volta region and I'm sure that was also an interview in its own way because you had to get the information out.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure around that time you never even saw yourself hosting a show on national television or national radio.
No.
You picked bits and bits of experience along the line, everything you did. Let me ask, I mean, was money ever a motivation at any point?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all, because I was more interested in producing.
Okay.
And again, as I said, the little money I had to buy petrol into my car, it took about 6 weeks when he came back for the ministry to
reimburse you. Okay.
But I said, hey, let me sacrifice and move on. You know, I wasn't thinking about money. I was thinking about producing. And that's why the demand from a number of companies was coming in, that now I was spoiled.
Your works were being seen.
It's your production, you know, which right now I tell the youth, have a passion for what you like. You think people are not noticing, but people are noticing. And when the right time comes, you will see your value, because it's the impact you make.
Yeah.
These days, I meet some youth who want to win awards. I say, no. Don't aim at an award. Never aim at an award. What you're doing is what you should think of improving all the time.
Think of outcome.
Yeah. You yourself, you must evaluate yourself. Am I doing better? Am I doing well? If there's some award somebody nominates you, that's fine. But you know,
that should not be your prime focus.
Not at all. No, never make it a prime focus. Just produce, and at the end of the year, ask yourself whether you did better this year than last year, and then say that, oh, next year I'm going to do this, and add on new ideas. New thoughts. If people are listening to you, they want to see whether you are giving them new ideas.
Yes.
And particularly on radio, if you get a guest, the kind of information you bring out benefits the public.
Exactly.
And they like the program, they like you, the presenter, they want to listen to you because you give them more information when
that's true.
You know, when they listen to you. So that should be the focus.
So when you took over GIJ as director, what were some of the adjustments you had to make in order to find your feet in this new role? Because you had done broadcasting, you were not a trained broadcaster, but you learned on the job, right? You had written for so many years. You had done your piece at SNIT. You worked at various companies, and this was a totally new terrain, if I'm not wrong. What were some of the things did you have to also learn in order to be able to direct and change the face of GIJ then?
Now, don't forget, I had a full breadth of all the subjects. One, I had done my postgraduate at Lagos.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's why even radio, television was not some. There was,
it was just a part of it.
A little radio station at the Radio University.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that was only for practice, which. But more important, I understood the terrain.
Exactly. It wasn't a new field for you.
It wasn't.
Okay.
I had taught before. I had a management experience. I'd been head of a whole department at Graphic.
You went into the field as a journalist.
And I was, I forgot. I was a part-time evening teacher at GIJ.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you had it. You had it already. It had all just come together.
Just all come together.
Wow.
So, but the important thing is that we had entered the age of computers. So what I said, and again, keep saying, anytime you get to a place, you don't destroy. Find out what is there, study it, and then find what you can
improve upon it. Yeah.
Some people want to just destroy everything that was there and as if they are building. No, you don't build anything. People are built, so you must build on.
Yeah, exactly. Build on. Continue from where they left off.
And then add on.
Exactly.
So this was the period of the computers. Computers had come, and I remember I attended a conference of the non-aligned movement in Zimbabwe, Harare. And I went in Ghanaian. This was, I think, 1986. Ghanaians and other journalists were still writing stories. And those from Southern Africa, particularly South Africa, even Harare, were using laptops.
Yeah.
So by the time you finish writing, you have to write.
And go and put it, exactly, go and type it. They are far ahead of you.
And then go to the telex room. By the time you are ready to...
Their news is already broadcasted.
Oh, it's already broadcasted.
And yours expires.
And you're faxing your story to Accra.
For the editor to check. Wow. So, interesting times.
Yeah, so I told myself, no, we should introduce computers at GID. So we had to convert some parts of the library into a computer lab. And then we started acquiring computers and getting it into. So I started the first, I think 6 or 12 computers for GIJ.
Okay.
That for me was a big addition. And then we also struck relationship with United Nations, UNFPA, to use communication for a lot of things. You must use communication for development. So you can use storytelling to, if you want an education on, say, population.
Yeah.
Population not control, but population, that kind of thing. You go. We had to work with the departments at the University of Ghana.
Okay.
Theatre for Development. So we got them involved. We were writing the stories. They were turning them into theatre. They were
still informing people.
And using them in the villages and communities to educate people. Using our own proverbs and our own local settings and what we've said. I remember a proverb, awaripi to tintoma.
Okay. And this would be a story setting to address polygamy?
In terms of, social problems. Using their own setting. But we engineer, and UNESCO, UNFPA got interested in the idea. I just created it. And they decided to sponsor it.
And Honorable, do you know now, in postgraduate studies, communication goes hand in hand with development studies?
Absolutely. You see, communication drives development.
That's true.
It's so important, and that's why I established AUCC. Communication and business, they go together. There's no way any country can develop without bringing these two together. And so communication drives everything. So we did communication for development, and it stuck until I left. I was invited to Parliament. They lifted the ban on party politics. My constituency wanted me to go to Parliament, and reluctantly I agreed to go. Another different story.
Okay, I think we'll touch on that story in the course of the interview if time permits, but still in the time frame where you had GIJ ongoing, around the time you were still actively writing, give us a picture of the political situation then and how it impacted your job. I've spoken with a lot of journals around that time who had their works almost always curtailed because of the political influence. How different was your era to theirs, and what were some of the highlights of that period?
Those were very I would say episodic. I mean, we had a whole lot of things were happening in this country. We had 1979, the mutiny of the Indian forces, the June 4th uprising, and I wrote a book, The Trial of J.J. Rawlings. I picked information at that time. This was late 70s, early 80s. So when I became editor, it was still in that period of Ghana under military rule, and so restrictions on the media were real. I mean, sometimes you get query from the top. Why that story? Why that story? That kind of thing. But it did not stop us completely. One of the stories that we used put me into trouble because Amatekwe was interviewed by Jerry Rawlings the time before his execution, and that story apparently was not supposed to be used. And I said, no, this is big news. We'll use it on our front page, Daily Graphic. And I used the story. The next day, the Minister for Information, Auntie Joyce Ayi, comes to my office, say, the president is not happy with your story. They say that you should go home on interdiction, on suspension.
Wow.
I said, Auntie Joyce, but this is true story. She said, well, instructions from above. And I don't know whether you know the story. Amatekwe was found to be the one who led the assassination, the killings of the judges and so on. But before that, he had been saying Captain Chikata was behind it. Now, the minutes before he is executed, says he has a confession that Captain Chikata had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
As a journalist, this was big story. So although we were all together, all the editors were invited to this press conference where President Rawlings showed or played back the interview. We were the only one who used the story. I said, but why? But at that moment, I didn't know that they had all been, blocked from using the story. But I said, no, this is top story. It's it oversold graphic that day. We had to do a second edition. But then the minister comes to say, no. So he got on suspension. Okay.
Were you afraid for your life?
No, not at all.
Were.
It's strange. It's a question I asked myself. I said, because I knew I had done the right thing.
Yeah.
See, it's again something that anybody in this profession should put at the back of their mind, that if you are convinced about it, if somebody pushes a story through you that you didn't believe and you use, that's a different thing. And it means somebody paid for the story. But this one, your own conviction, professionally. Here is somebody who has said all the time that the captain was behind it. And the time he's dying, he wants to confess. And he had done the same confession to a Roman Catholic priest in the Burma camp.
Okay, so it was verified.
Yeah, I mean, it is something that they normally do when they are going to execute people. They do these religious things at the Burma camp. So, when it was played back, it was big news. For me as a journalist, oh, here is the same person now saying this. So we used the story. And so I had to pack up and go home.
What did you tell your family then when you went home?
Good question. In fact, first of all, what did I tell my own staff? We had a staff meeting. Everybody was sad, and, because we have an editorial team which approves of stories for the next day. So everybody was like, what happened? What happened? What happened? I told them the story. And some clerk who was my deputy, was asked to take over, or handed over to him. And I went home and told my family that is the story. Even the official car that I was using, I left in the office and went home. So my wife then was teaching at Wesley Grammar School. I had kids who were in school, but they came back. I took it easy and relaxed because I said no.
You did the right thing.
I did the right thing. A few weeks later, the minister came back to tell me that there were some other jobs that were lined up for me. Clearly telling me that as for graphic,
you are not going back again. We don't need you there. Wow.
They made a number of offers. I said no, I was not interested. To go to London to be editor of West Africa magazine, no. To go to an appointment as political whatever in some of the embassies, I said no.
You still wanted what you were doing, or nothing else?
Nothing else. So it was after about a year that I got invitation now to GIJ. And even then, I had to ask questions because my friend Cabral was the director, but he had gone out on a course. They said, yeah, he had gone on a course. When he comes back, he's going to another portfolio. I said, okay, I want it written down.
Just on paper, just to prove, yeah.
Give me a letter. So I demanded and I got it before I entered GIJ. So.
Wow. Now, after all this happens, after the influence of, politics then, on your prime passion, at some point you decided to venture into politics with NDC. How did all this come about? What caliber of people did you set out to surround yourself with in order to propel your political ambitions? Mind you, you're somebody who wanted to stand for the truth. You actually stood for the truth so much that you lost your job at some point. How then did politics come about?
Yes, I had traveled, came back. I think out of fatigue. You know, I had been admitted at 37 for observation, and I was just taking it easy. And I wasn't sick. It was doctor's advice. And then I get a delegation from my constituency that, and the ban on politics has just been lifted.
Like you mentioned earlier.
And that your name has been not even just brought up, but we've accepted your name. We are taking you to, we are, you know, taking the name to the headquarters of NDC. And I had shown no
political interest whatsoever,
anywhere. But because I think NDC was predominant in the area, and I suspect that because, you know, radio, your name is out there, and everybody, they said, oh, it would be easy to, you know, to campaign for. I said, I don't even have the money. I have not. They said,
it's not part of your plans.
No. They said, no. The party is going to pay everything for you. They pay your registration fee. As for the campaign, don't worry, and things like that. I said, listen, I'm in the hospital. Let me get out, and then go and discuss with my wife.
Family. The boss needs to make a decision.
Honestly, they said, and it was the following day I was going to be discharged. They left me off and came to the house 2 days later and said all that they needed from me was my passport picture.
Okay.
That they had done everything. Oh my God. Okay, so I discussed with my wife. She wasn't very keen, but I saw it as a service. I said, okay, what can I do to a constituency with very low level of development? I didn't grow up there, but I you know, that was where I came from. Maybe I have a few ideas I can. Yeah, so I accepted to go, and you know, I didn't do much campaigning. They just took me.
They had already appointed you.
But virtually,
the people wanted you.
So the first election, about 66% votes for me, and then I was in Parliament. So that's how it began.
And this would be 1992?
This is 1993. Yeah, the elections were in 1992.
But then
so 1993.
You went into office.
Yeah, and then 3 months later, when the president nominated his ministers, he made me Deputy Minister of Information. So, Minister MP to start with, and so Deputy Minister, I worked under Mr. Kofi Tobi Kwache, you know, as a deputy. Of course, deputies work.
Yeah, you were the ones actually bearing the torch.
So it was good for me because I knew the terrain.
Exactly. Once again,
you know, it wasn't anything. And I had worked in the Ministry of Information at the Information Services Department. And now I come back and most of my bosses are there, and I become the best.
Wow. Yeah, such a small world, you know.
It was a small world, and they all came to salute and all that. But you see, some of them were not surprised because they knew, and they said it to me that when you were here, you were outstanding. I mean, you the initiative you took to do certain things, they still remember.
Going to Volta region, Kumasi.
Oh, Kumasi, Cape Coast, you know, talk about mining, gold mining, going to the Western region on your own.
And I'm sure around that time, they would be happy, or they were happy letting you go.
Yes.
Because they wanted to retain you.
Precisely.
But then after the negotiation didn't go their way, they decided, okay, let's let him go. And then you come back in a different capacity, superior capacity as the minister.
That's right.
Big lesson from that, guys.
That's
Big
right.
lesson.
Yeah.
Now, alongside that, I'm told you also became a regional minister.
Yes, so after 4 years as deputy minister, then I was promoted to become a full minister and sent to Cape Coast as a central regional minister. So I went to Cape Coast for 2 years. I was the minister for Central Region, and then I was transferred to Ashanti, where I finished off my career, also as regional minister for Ashanti.
Now, what I want to ask in this capacity has to do with work that is expected from you as Member of Parliament, one regional minister, a Minister of State. Comparing then to now, has the work changed? Was more demanded from you than if you find yourself in this capacity? Are things the same now? What do you have to say?
Yeah, good question. If I have a chance to go to the Constitutional Review Committee, I would not make an MP a minister.
Why?
You won't have the time for your constituency. It's important for you to really all this tension between MPs and their constituencies. The tension comes from the fact that there's not much interaction.
That's true.
And when you have a big constituency, look, no matter how small the constituency is, everybody wants to see you. It wants to have an interaction with you if possible. And in fact, the work demands that you report to your constituency.
Yes, you report to them.
But it becomes so difficult going to Parliament. Now, even here in Accra, I live in Accra. Central Region is not far. But if you take me to Kumasi, I am MP. I'm regional minister. Look at the whole region like Ashanti. And then I have to come to Parliament, if possible 3 times a week, and then go to my constituency. No, it's totally, senseless. So that is one review I would really want. Now, again, the second thing, people still talk about me in the regions. I saw myself as a regional minister for the coordination of development in the region. In fact, I saw myself less as a politician, or in the strictest sense of the word, or as a partisan politician.
Yes, you are for the people.
Right. So I opened my doors to all, parties and their leaders, and that again didn't earn me a good name. For example, I go to the Central Region, and I realize that in my residency, every Sunday there's a meeting of NDC. And so I politely tell them, sorry, you have your own offices. My residency
is for the people.
Is for everybody. Or to begin with, it's private. Then, if I should admit, I shall admit everybody.
Yes. Regardless party affiliation.
Of your party affiliation. So if you meet here and another party comes and they also want to hold a meeting here. So I explained politely to them. It was difficult, but when they left, my bad name started. Oh, this regional minister, unpair NDC for one some, And so when they see or somebody reports that, some other party leader
is allowing
visited, even just visited or had an appointment, said, he only receives opposition, all that kind of crap. But you see, the important thing is that regional ministers should see themselves as for the region. I did the same when I went to Kumasi. I stopped meetings in the before I got there. They all knew. Said, "Oh, this minister." They said, "When you're in the central hygiene, you disallow them." I said, "Yes, true. It's a principle." And I'm told now that people have gone back to the region, and the regional ministers are seeing themselves as representative of their parties and so on. I think it's wrong. See, I'm not an Ashanti. As I got this interview on one of the stations, they said, "Oh, you are so popular in Ashanti, but you are not an Ashanti." I said, "That's how it should be. We should be able to serve anywhere." And even that helps with national integration. So it should not be a certain unique thing. The president should be able to appoint anybody to any region. When I hear that some people in a district are protesting to the president that this person doesn't come from here, I feel sick. Again, because of the orientation I had from the beginning. I saw more country, than personal, tribal or political interest. So it is that kind of orientation that I want to see, in the country, that we go back to those values, that we are serving the country. We are not serving a particular political party. You see, a party is a vehicle. A party is a vehicle for governance. And once it's there, the doors should still be open to everybody to provide a contribution towards development.
Towards nation building.
If national programs, you go to national programs and then you find party flags, it's something else. Why shouldn't it be even Ghana flags? You see, we should get that sense of love of country more than love of party. Otherwise we'll never see anything good in anybody in another party.
I think we should go back to the code of ethics once again.
We should.
That orientation would really help.
It will.
Yes, because if these things are on your lips, they are at the back of your mind, you really don't see party. And you mentioned something very, very important. I think the last time I heard that was in my political science class, Professor Agri in Legon, that a political party is just a vehicle.
It's a vehicle.
Yes, to nation building. Exactly, for governance. You are driven into the realms of governance by a political party. I mean, in that vehicle. But once you get there, the people there and the people you were with before you left are people.
Absolutely.
No division whatsoever with regards to party. It's unfortunate that is the situation now, but I mean, so long as people like you keep drumming it into the ears of people, bit by bit will grow. The new generation need to really understand this, and I believe that is why programs like this exist, so we can understand that nation building is all of us, regardless your political affiliation. Because at the end of the day, if something bad happens to Ghana, if there's a fire outbreak for Ghana, it won't ban only NDC, it will ban MPP, CPP, everybody. And so we need to guard ourselves very well, and also love ourselves so much that we don't see party when it comes to development. Parties and politics, should never stand in the way of development.
No, not at all.
As a people.
Not at all.
Honorable, so at what point did you finally take a crucial decision to bow out of politics? Did you have a grand exit plan, or it happened by chance?
No, I don't know whether you were in the country, but I had a very unusual experience in Kumasi, where after the installation of 242, the president announced out of the blue that I should be transferred to NDPC, come back to Accra. It shocked me, one, because the announcement was on the air.
You were not informed?
I was not informed. I didn't receive any letter. I was sitting in Parliament And one of my colleagues, was he a colonel or captain, so retired, goes out and comes back to say, there's an announcement on radio. And I'm sitting in Parliament. And then I'm sitting, those in the press gallery, I saw they were all looking at me. They had all, descending their looks into me and said, so he was telling me, you've been transferred from Ashanti. I said, what? And I said, okay, that's fine. So by the time the sitting was over, almost everybody had heard.
But you had not formally been informed.
No, everybody came to me and said, oh, we've heard this and that, and So even there, right there in Parliament, I decided I'll resign because I didn't like the way I was treated. And so, purely on principle, before I even went to Kumasi, I came to my house in East Legon and wrote my resignation letter.
Wow.
And it surprised people who are used to all the trappings of governance that you're a minister, you have
access to
everything, you have bodyguards, you have 7 cooks, you have this and all that, you have a huge residency. Because of this, you are retiring, you have your vehicles, you have this. I give them all up in one day.
Wow. I mean, once again, what was the family's reaction?
Shock, but you see, they knew me. I think my kids were in school. They were in secondary school. They were, they knew me as that. I wasn't somebody greedy for anything. I was satisfied with what I was. I was still a simple person. And so I just going back to my normal, simple life. But the important thing is, where do you go next? So I said to my family or my wife that my term was to end in 2000. So let the term end. While it is on, I'll be thinking of something else. And I had all this professional background behind me. I quickly established Yanka and Associates as a consultancy. And then I started planning to build a university.
I mean, now that you've mentioned that, because of time, I want us to just quickly dive into it. You mentioned the inspiration behind wanting to set up AUCC back in 2001, but then what are some of the major building blocks you needed to put in place in order to put the institution on sound footing? I don't think it's taught anywhere on how to build universities, but how did you do it?
Yeah, again, because of my experience at GIJ, it's going to be an institution. An institution, you need to be sure what you want to teach. You want to know what exactly do you want. And I saw communication as so important. I didn't want it to be a department of Adana University. I wanted to raise the profile of journalism and communication. So I said I'll do it at the university level. And so with that, I needed the people to build it. Even before I got a space, I needed who are we going to, was I going to work with? I looked for them. And then, of course, I started going around Asylum Down, got some, temporary places to work and so on and so forth. But what I was going to offer there was important. The people that I needed was important.
Very important, yeah.
The space that I knew that I needed accreditation.
Yes.
Of course, I needed funding, which again, I thought about that last. With some of my what do you call now? They call them what? Ex gratia.
Yeah.
But more or less your entitlements.
Yeah, exactly.
I said I'll put them in my school, and can you imagine? my wife, if how do you go and tell your wife you are going to put
our lifetime benefits is going into building a school? Wow. I'm sure she also had plans for the money,
Oh, naturally. So, but the good thing is that I had taken a loan from Home Finance Company to start building a house
already.
So, but then, if I'm going out of politics, how do I pay Home Finance Company?
Yeah.
But all those things pass so smoothly. Not smoothly, because I had a consultancy.
Yeah.
I started earning some money to pay off Home Finance while we finished our house and moved in there.
so you can focus on building the school when the money comes.
And then,
Wise
of course,
decisions.
I had to go and take a loan from Social Security Bank to start the school in 2002. And this year, we are 20 years.
20 years. Congrats.
Yeah, so it's been,
Prof, how gratifying, I mean, since we're here talking, how gratifying is it for you hearing your students are doing well in media space across the country? I recently had an intern finish her duties with us, our official duties with us. She's from AUCC, impeccable, student. She's ready to learn. She comes to you and tells you, Rev, I think this should be done this way. This is what I was taught in the school, and I didn't go to school for this. Yes, and so I take bits and bits of whatever is taught, no matter the angle it comes from. How does it feel, when you see people do good in the space of media, because you wanted to change certain things in the pillars of communication and journalism here? How do you feel? And has there been any downsides since you started operating 2002?
Yeah, I must say, it's been satisfying to see. We've trained over 3,000 students. We are spread across the country. We had 15 African countries bringing students to AUCC. They have all been trained. And I remember going to South Africa and meeting some of them in Namibia and so on. It's satisfying.
Yeah.
At the school, I say, I wish you could do more. But I was greeted with a new strategic plan when I was invited to the school last week for the 20th anniversary. Can you imagine? I was invited.
They invited you
to go. And I saw a new strategic plan taking into consideration the new digital age and the need for change of courses and so on, and it's now offering graduate studies, and it's very satisfying to hear all that. So I moved on from there. So
Honorable, looking into the future, I mean, what wider impact do you see the school make on Ghanaian society, and what level of support do you need? That's very, very important. I mean, you just gave us insight into how you even fund things. What kind of support are you looking at getting? What shape would you want the school to take in the near future? How instrumental would you want to see the school in development and communication here in Ghana? I mean, we're somewhere now, but where do you see the school getting to? Where do you wish the school would get to?
No, I want the school or the university to be a leader in communication education, be it mainstream media education or digital. They should go further into digital and data communication and become the leader on the continent. There are not too many of private universities like this, and to be just concentrated on communication. And I added business because every communication person should have a business mentality. So even when you say what kind of support, I've never asked government for any support. I hear people say, oh, they are giving buses, they are giving, no, If any government or any private company wants to donate to the school, that's fine. But it's not.
It's not something you. Yeah.
No. I think people should hold on their own and be creative and find solutions to their problems. I keep telling the management of AUCC, let the students search for solutions rather than searching for problems.
Let them find the outcomes.
And then find solutions to the problems that they see. So if that focus is there, we won't be saying the government should do this, government should do that, government should do that. Government should provide the environment. Yes.
And then we will have to find a sustainable ways of existing and developing. Good. Wow. Thank you so much, Honorable Kojo Yanka. We still have a few questions, but at this point, I think the rest of the questions are from the people. We've had a couple of messages coming through. I'm permitted to pick maybe 3 of them, and then after that. But before we get to that, beyond all this, beyond your busy schedule, going up and down for the school, doing your private activities, do you ever have time to do anything for fun? What do you even define as fun? How do you unwind from all the busy things you do?
I will tell you a secret that I haven't told many people. Every Friday I go to the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast restaurant and place opposite Flagstaff, Jubilee House.
Yeah.
I go with my wife dancing.
Every Friday?
Every Friday. It's a secret, but
shared it.
I've shared it with you. And
do you dance live band music?
Yeah, live band music. But I'm also building at the Pan-African Museum at Miniba Junction, and so occasionally you drive there to go and see. But it's one of the biggest things that have ever happened and that will happen in this country, because it's the biggest museum of Pan-African heritage that we are putting here to attract people of African descent widely, hoping to complete in 2024. So we spend some time and spend most of my time on Zoom meetings and other, because I'm dealing with the rest of the world. But in terms of fun, let's meet at Gold Coast on Friday.
I like that. So Friday we have a date, guys. Let's show up for Honorable. Now, Honorable, still on some more. We can't finish this interview without talking about Inspector Bediako. Perhaps one of the most iconic television shows. I'm told it's back after a long break. How excited are you about this, and how significant is this for the younger television audience? Some of us had the experience, had the opportunity of watching Inspector Bediako. For the ones who haven't had the opportunity, how good do you think this chance is, and how excited are you?
Well, I won't say I'm excited. I'm happy that DSTV came on board to say we want to show want to bring Inspector Bediako back. It's one of the things that I created. It was just like writing a book, and I created it because I thought Africans should see themselves on television. We used to watch a lot of detective series, Hawaii Five-0 and others. And I asked myself, wait a minute, we also do detective work. Our police hasn't got to that level. So I will introduce technology into a fiction space and create an Inspector Bediako. And I didn't choose the name. I chose the name for a reason. Bediako is the one who likes fighting. Bediako. So he fights against social ills.
Indiscipline, corruption,
robbery, corruption, crime, and that kind of thing. So I created Bediako to be the one who is now going to fight all the social ills. And so this was late in the early 90s. And I remember that, again, we got private sponsorship from a number of companies. They were fighting over themselves to sponsor. At first, it was like, oh, will this survive? You know, an African TV detective series. Then it caught on. And even children, if you sent any child on Saturday afternoon, you probably forget it because they are going to watch it.
You have to go and catch a glimpse of that.
Yeah, so, I mean, it got very popular. Nigerian television stations came to pick it up and showed it in Nigeria. It even got more popular. But because I went into parliament and politics, time would not allow me to. There were other people directing it, but it didn't get the kind of gravitas that it had, so it was suspended. And now DSTV has picked it up. So it's good. I'm expecting that people would also do more. You know, let's create. We are capable of creating. So it's an inspiration to the youth. There are a number of youth who are so writing.
Yeah.
But yeah, let them go in ways that are new and get, you know, sometimes sponsorship is not easy, but you have to always persist.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. We have a few more minutes to wrap up. It's actually a few minutes. I really wish we had an extra hour for this, honestly. I'm really enjoying the interview. Now, this message is in here from Frank Deborah. Frank is at GIG. I'm sure he's a student. Frank says, if you had your way, what plans would you have in place to put the youth of this country to work productively?
I would create opportunities for challenges and rewards. See, we must have a reward system, a recognition system in this society. And I'm not talking of only the awards that people receive, but in workplaces. Do we recognize hard work? Do we recognize people who are creative? If every workplace had a recognition thing in place, it would help a lot of youth who think they are not recognized. That's only one example, and that's one. That's for those who are working. For those who have some creative energy to also do on their own, there should be a system that brings them together. For example, if I want to sponsor, I could sponsor if I have the means. And there are people in Ghana who have
the means,
could sponsor a lot of initiatives for youth who have something new to offer to a solution. I heard on radio one day that some youth in Takoradi or in one of the technical schools had developed energy from the spark of cars driving on ramps.
Yes.
I said, wait a minute. You know, if I had the opportunity, I would invite them and then sponsor them to move forward. There are a lot of youth who have those talents. But instead of getting the kind of recognition and support from individuals, everybody is looking for them to look at government. No. There are a number of people who are capable of sponsoring young people like that to create that environment for recognition and reward. And I keep saying it, recognition and reward all the time, wherever we are. And you find that people are feeling, yes, people are noticing us.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kojo-Yankah. It's been an awesome morning. Honestly, I really enjoyed every bit of this. Before we wrap up, final piece of advice. We never do without this on this interview. Final words of encouragement, advice. I mean, I think we've done a lot of advice, words of encouragement to young Ghanaians, people who are looking forward to being the change we want here in Ghana.
I think that people should get their mindset positive. Never think that you can grow from one step to the other with negative thoughts. Be positive, put up an idea, bring up an idea and nurture the idea. If you have to talk to other people who have done it, don't be afraid. Talk to them, seek help, but be positive. One thing you should not do is to put fear in yourself. Once you get to meet anybody who puts fear in you, run away from the person, because you want to get inspired every moment and be yourself and give yourself some challenges. Evaluate yourself periodically. This week I wanted to do this. I didn't do this. But more important, spend your time productively. Sometimes we look at the time, the time passes the whole day, and you ask her, what have you done? Nothing. So we should manage our time well in pursuit of what we want to do. Sacrifices are important. There are no shortcuts in life. So be positive, stay where you are, persist in what you want, follow the path, follow your intuition, and get to what you want to do.
All right.
You will succeed.
You will succeed. Thank you so much, Honorable Kojianka. I really enjoyed this interview, I must say. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for taking time off your busy schedule to advise the youth, to share your life story with us. It's been an awesome journey. Guys, if you missed this interview, in case you just joined us, you missed the first part of the show on YouTube, Y1079 FM. It was streaming live on Facebook. Good news is that you can actually go there and play back. yfmghana.com. We have infographics spread across there, all the things he shared. Every single bit of this interview is out there on Facebook, on our website, and then across our socials. Prof and Honorable, thank you so much for spending time with us. We do wish you a very wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you this Friday at the Gold Coast.
We'll meet there.
Yeah, we'll come.